Tell us a story. Anybody have a story? What's going on? Oh, hey, wonderful. Now say it nice. Now you can with a mouthful. You gotta really, this is very important what Deb is doing here.
I got to pose as a butterfly today. Downstairs in front of the wings. I want all of you to do the same thing and take a little photograph of it, and there will be a hashtag, because there will be a site at the Cultural Arts Center for all the people that do a picture of themselves with their butterfly.
Oh, and that's why you asked me to wear my hat in front of that photograph.
That'd be perfect. You could go with your black hat.
That black hat, okay.
And there's a step stool for short people.
And Dana, who's going to be our artist next week in that beautiful experience of the monarch butterfly, made a contribution of tell us what you gave us. You have to know Sharon was just thrilled with it.
The printing department has a new press, a new to-band.
Yay. Very generous. Yeah, and, I can tell you a story. I just came from one of my favorite people, who is now no longer has his feet on this earth. But I just love this man, Charles Booth. And he and I shared the same professor at Harvard Divinity, Gardner Taylor, in homiletics. And I can't tell you what it was like to go over there to that wake and have that community of people, just so beautiful, celebrating his life. You know, my father was state senator, and he served 12th district. And he said one Easter Sunday, he was looking at us in our church, and he said, okay, now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take you someplace where you're going to know that Jesus really resurrected from the dead. And he took us to this church, and it's how I got to know what beautiful community, and I just came from them. But you may see this in the paper. Reverend Charles Booth. So, celebration of life. Anybody else have a story? Well, let's go to the family of Tressia Priestly. They are right here with us, and they may have a story. Do you? I know. I've heard of you. Nancy, do we want to start with you, Mother? Your daughter was raving about you and how you inspired her in her world of art.
I don't know how I inspired her, but she inspires me all the time. She's the oldest of four children, and they are all involved in one way or another of the arts, different kinds of things. And so we're proud of all of them, and we presently are.
You want to talk right in there now?
Daddy and I, Boy and I have been staying with Teresa now for about 2 years, and it's a glorious time all the time, and especially since she started with all these pieces of arts and how she actually sees them and feels them, and when I see it, it's a big chunk of clay. And then to watch it come into all of this, it's just a beautiful time of my life.
Oh, thank you. And your daughter said that you inspired her to paint the walls of the living room. It was almost like a beginning, right? Of confidence. And
that's how she spent her.
That's
how she spent her graduation day for a couple of days before in Springfield. We've lived in Springfield about 35 years. And yeah, she did. She painted the wall.
Painted the walls of your living room. I think that's so wonderful. Well, Mr. McCoy, you have something to say. Nice and loud there. Yep, talk into it.
I'm the real McCoy. Glad to be here. And proud of my daughter.
Oh, I'll tell you what more. I'm proud of you. Sister.
Hi, I am Lee. I am Teresa's, well, I'm a twin, but I'm the youngest one of the four. I am by spirit, a dancer, also professionally trained, but also my first experience of dance was seeing her do something at one of her school extra credit or something. And I saw her dance, and I was sitting in the audience at the time, and I said, I want to be a dancer. She doesn't remember that to this day. But amazing. Yeah, she danced and also did some poetry. It was at school. So anyway, that's many years ago, but we're very proud of her because she's always been the creative of the first four, the first one of the rest of the four. And she's been an inspiration in ways that she can't even imagine, nor is she accepting of. So I'm going to say we're extremely proud of her. Very proud. Love you.
Tressia Priestly. No, that's right. I don't have to say anything, she said. It's all been said. But we now look to you, do we not? To tell us about this beautiful, amazing exhibit in the Loft Gallery. And even though you say, oh, well, so modestly, you respond, we want you to celebrate with us what you have done. All right, and you, besides being artist self-taught, you have been working with the educational system. Preschool, wow. And Teresa was describing how this art has her focus after she has been running around with children. But how beautiful you have done those, huh? Yeah. All right. Take over.
Prayer for my family.
Now, right into that microphone.
I started working ceramics with Eric. I want to say hi. I think since 2014. Do you remember? Do you remember? Anyway, so.
2014, that sounds about right. 5 years ago?
I think
yeah.
so. Well, no. I'm not sure. Yeah, about 5 years ago, I think so.
Yeah.
It was.
Time flies.
And so I thought I was going to work on the wheel, but I had yet to get on the wheel. And I love the work that people do on the wheel, but I'm not interested in perfection. Remember how I used to get upset when somebody would tear something up? I'm like, no, but it was so cute about the little cookies and the dents and stuff. This started because I don't remember how. You went on vacation one day. I was gone, and we missed together about a couple of weeks, and then was it one of the couples or something? And he said, well, when did that happen? And I told him in front of the football game, because I was watching football, and I wanted to try something at home different. I didn't want to try it in class, because I didn't want anybody asking me what I was doing, because I didn't know what I was doing. And so they just started turning into these little creations. But I remember Eric saying, well, I would ask him how to start something. He said, well, how's that any different than the last one you started? I'm like, I don't know. So what I love about him is that he doesn't tell us what to do. Lets me work it out, and then he may say, you could try this, you could try that, and it's up to me to decide how I'm going to do it. I've never started any of them the same way. And really this all started, and I indicated it to some degree in my artist statement. That was after my husband passed about almost 7 years ago, and so I was trying to do something different, just get my mind off of things. And I was trying to sign up for a jewelry class, but I was on the waiting list. And I thought, oh, I looked at, there was, ceramics was available, and I said, I'm gonna try this, and that's what's been happening ever since. It's been my happy place on Tuesday evenings for the last, well, since 2014. And I started off, I started making the angels, and that really helped me in between each of these creations. I've made an angel or two because it just helped me think about the next one, what I'm going to do next. And it also helped me, you know, just working on building bodies or what you call figures. And I started with couples first. And that might have been in just seeing the togetherness of family. And I was missing Michael a whole lot, you know. So when I'm doing this, I'm really thinking about other things, you know. I've done a lot of other creating while working on these. And like Selma was talking about me slowing down because I am a preschool teacher. And sometimes I even talk fast. I move around real fast, but I've learned that I have to take my time with this. One thing I like about them, really like about them, are the imperfections, because we're not perfect ourselves, and so for me, I think they look more real. Each one I have a story behind them. This one right here is, I want to say it's one of my favorites, but I think all of them. I like all of them. But I was in church one day, well, in church. This one Sunday, we were having prayer, and people were praying with people, and I don't know why I looked up. This is some friends of mine, and Zion didn't make it in the prayer circle. This is her dad. She was, I thought it was a sweet thing. She's looking up at her dad as he's praying, and I thought, oh, it just touched my heart, you know. So that really meant something to me.
Can we see that? Can you spin it for us?
Oh, do I have to hold this out? Just, you want to pass it around? It's heavy, so. Where do you, oh, you all can see it. So. And you can see her looking up at her dad. And he is a big guy, so he does have enough to wrap around. I was in here the other day, and a lady from the weaving class got up. She said, "Oh, I want to." She asked, you know, who the artist was, Kristen, remember? And she got up and wanted to tell us that her favorite one was this one. She saw this guy on High Street, which is, it is often this guy that I see up and down High Street. I don't know where he's going, I don't know what he's doing, and I'm not going to assume that he's homeless, but he's going somewhere. He's one way. We saw him on the way down here, so when we go back, we'll probably see him.
What part of High Street is he?
South High.
South High?
South.
With a big beard and
Yeah.
orange coat. Yes.
Yeah, he's got an orange coat. This is the first year, I've seen him for the past couple of years. This is the first year that I've seen the coat. And he always, you don't worry about him being cold. In the wintertime, he has appropriate clothing on. In the summertime, he looks like he's okay. So I don't know what he's doing. But I think he's a vet, because I've seen the
Can you hold him up for us?
And he's interesting because he's doing his thing, and he's like practically in the road.
and you never see him
People
talk
talk a lot about
anybody.
him, actually.
Yeah.
You know, I've had other conversations about it.
But you don't see him, he's not asking for anything, he's just walking. And the other day, when it was kind of raining, not the heavy rain, but it sprinkled a little bit, and I saw him, when it started raining, he looked up and he did the sign of the cross, and he's continuing walking. Look like he worries about anything.
You should someday take that and show it to them.
Somebody bought it, I don't know. I don't know who it was.
Well, then take a photograph of it.
I brought this one in here because when I was getting ready for this, well, I'll show you what I brought in here. Erica brought the other one. So when I was trying to decide whether I was going to show it or not, because I have done a little bit better, I mean, you know, because I slowed down to work on some things. And I was telling my mother, I said, I don't know if I want to take this one, and I turned it around and hit it on the, so I broke his arm. But I do, Eric said, because I need to show you the difference. And I'm not good at water. This is my water bottle. So this is good on here, but I wanted to show you the difference in the, I'm doing better with the, look at the hands. Before, this was a rush job, because I knew I would do this.
Lift him up for them? Oh, yes.
But then look at these hands.
See?
Although I will always keep this one.
We have
What
the-
do we do?
Set them down so we can look at them closer later. or
Okay.
something.
Well, okay. Anyway.
Don't break his arm off again. So who is that?
It's not, this is the first one I did. These are the first couple. It could be whoever you want. I mean, I think of it as a man of the cloth, you know, a preacher maybe. But there was 3 couples. There's this one, there's the other 2 out there, and different. One of them almost maybe a professional, somebody, but I just always feel like there's a woman always standing behind. The strength behind it is what I named them.
How do you go about this? Tell us, as artist and Eric with us, how do you proceed? This is phenomenal.
Yeah, talk about painting them too.
Yeah.
Talk about how you build them and then paint them. Talk a little bit about how you build them. You can start them. You build a lot from solid, right?
inside?
Wait, would you?
We're both kind of leading you in the same direction. Are they solid? Are they hollow? Do you start from the ground up? You carve away blocks of clay? How do you make one of these structures?
They've all been started differently
Right into
because
the
of,
microphone.
I've all started with different.
I am learning how to use less clay. They're not all hollow. Or sometimes I build them. I start with like a block. I build them, and then after I create them, that one little tool you can clean them out in. And I haven't figured out the best way yet to build. Well, actually, when I did this one again, I realized how I needed to work on these together. Sometime, no.
Can I help you?
Yes.
I don't know if this is going to help, but it adds to the magic of this work. She and I share a table, and we have for years. And, you know, we talk, but yet we get very busy, and I can be working on something, and she's got a lump of clay. Next time I look up, it's a person. And I just don't understand. I miss the part where you make the person. And it's just, and she's not looking at a photo. She has the idea of this person in her mind, and she's able to get the folds of the clothes, the angle. I think it's amazing. So if that helps.
It helps. It just shows you I don't even know anything. Because every one of them have been started. This one was the hardest one ever to do because I had to figure out how to connect them and keep them wet or dry or dry is not what I want.
So was that all one block when you
No,
started,
no.
or you pieced them together?
I pieced them together, and I don't know if I'll ever do another one. That was really a challenge. Yeah, that was.
You do a similar thing with the streetscape outside where you have the
So-
tile, but they're not quite as compact.
They're not, and that, remember I did that one over a period of time. So I made each of those figures. I don't know if you guys have been out there, the corners, I would have brought that one, but it's so heavy. The Cornerstone Fellowship one. And that's the story. There is a corner store in my neighborhood. And we pulled up one time, my son and I, and there were, I don't know, there was about 3 or 4 guys, and it was in the high time where it seemed like you hear shooting every week. It was, you know, and my son was like, he said, wow, that's a sight. And they were just, for about 4 guys just sitting there, and they were just talking. It looked like they might have been solving the problems of the world, but it was just so innocent. And it was just a nice sight, you know, it's like they were safe on that particular street, on the corner store, you know, and just talking about life. Now, I don't remember, I don't know exactly what they were doing, but the scene that came to my head was one had a newspaper, one was just sitting there. And that store, a lot of times you'll go down the street and someone just go down there and sit on the crates and just pull out their phone or just start reading. So, yeah, it was a nice memory for me to see that.
Well, if I may say so, the hardest one that you did is my favorite.
Oh.
I call it family group.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of detail in there too, like just the pockets. There's pockets on the back of the jeans, and then there's a slit on the sides where pockets go, and that's a lot of detail to remember and put into something like that. And the boots, I mean, even the boots of the homeless guy, I mean, you really remembered a lot of.
Well, someone told me that even on the, when you do something like that, make sure that all areas look interesting, you know, even if you have somebody that's sitting down, but not in this one, but the little guy that's sitting down, when I first did him, he's got pockets. But even though nobody's really gonna look, but Eric, get him up and look and see that you did at the bottom. Yes.
Well, that's true, that does make it so interesting.
How about the color? I don't think how you color
The
them.
color, so I had a habit of once I started making, I didn't want to do the glazing part because I didn't have any control. I guess it's a control issue. I didn't have any control over it, and that's what he told me about underglaze. So glazing, I'm probably not going to use the right terminology, but painted or use underglaze, then fire it. You can always say bake it. I always say I make it, they bake it. But and then we you know, touch up oil. And then we put what's it called? The clear gloss clear glaze. Yeah, the clear.
Don't you do a like a black or brown underglaze over top and then wipe it off, right? Can I tell
Yes,
you
yes,
process?
please tell them.
So, no, I can talk about that. So starting from building it after it's built, but before it's dried and fired the first time, you paint a lot of color out there. Skin color, the color of the clothes, pretty much all of the bright colors that you see. And then after the first firing, I believe on everyone you painted, you use black or brown? I think maybe just black. You paint, so all of that color is fired, so it's essentially stone. So then she can put a brown or a black over top of it, and then with a sponge wipe the majority of that away, so that darkness gets into the texture and kind of brings all of the colors together. And then you do the same thing with a clear glaze, wiping that off the surface, which gives the whole surface a little bit of variation. So then the color on there is for the most part fired in place, but then I know you take some of them and we'll use acrylic paint on top of those.
Some
and
of my take
use
home
other,
that I've
like
done
the,
that.
the
I've
shopping
put-
cart has mixed media in it.
I've done fingernail polish. Sometimes when the color didn't come, because I'm still trying to learn, you know, the colors don't always, especially with the skin tones, if there's a look that I'm looking for. And sometimes the fingernail polish will do just fine. I don't think on any of these, but I have done that.
So that's the difference between the gentleman and the family group, that you went in with something after the fact, either
I don't know why
clear,
there's,
I mean, one's shiny and one's more of a matte.
right,
so-
I think,
Yeah, there might be
Yeah.
more glaze left on it.
yeah.
So you didn't use the Cassius clay, the dark clay? for
No.
The face of?
No,
What kind, did you use red clay, white clay?
it's just the regular brown clay. I've never.
Yeah, it's like a light tan colored clay.
It's the brown.
It's a stoneware clay, yeah.
Is that what the brown clay is?
Yeah.
Oh. See, I don't know that. I've probably broken every rule there was. I'm learning as I go along.
Go ahead, talk.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I just want to say that my works are opening. She need to make some more pieces. The opening was what, 1, 2, 3. I think I got in this room to start doing her sales at what, 10 after 1, or well, maybe a little bit before 1. I didn't get out the chair and do nothing but do sales. She need to
I
make some
appreciate
more.
that.
Well, no, I ain't doing it for that. I'm saying you need to make some more.
I think you need to charge one.
I heard that, but the two people that were helping, my friend Charmaine and Eric, and they both bought something, but I remember
They bought
he said, after telling me that it was too low, blah, 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 and then he said, I was gonna wait, but you might raise the price on it.
Well, I guess I do, that is my question now that they all have red dots and they're gonna go home. That was our discussion, is that, yes, you've spent too much time on these to price them at what you price them at, but I feel that part of, when talking to you about it, part of it was letting them go and be in someone else's curio cabinet, and someone else appreciate putting their story to it. So now it frees you up. And so my question is, are you gonna keep telling the story? Are you gonna keep making more of these, do you think? Like,
I
what do you
think they won't be like these. I don't think I will ever do another guy. He's just so special. I'm gonna miss him. Especially as I was going to. And that's families. I can borrow that anytime.
Yeah.
I mean, a friend of a church family. But yeah, I had some other ideas, and it's just, you know, when I first started, I think it was, I was seeing things, and I think I said that in my artist statement, it's like, I felt like my world was a little broken anyway. I started just looking outward instead of inward, and I know it's my faith that kept me above water, but realizing that there are other people with other situations, but we don't know the situation. Part of my problem was people would look at me and say, and I know they didn't mean well after my husband passed, I know they didn't mean for this to hurt, but it's like, oh, you're strong, you'll get over it. You don't ever say that to anybody, because you won't, you'll get over it to some degree, but not to the point where they don't think you need anything, you know. So, and these are people that you would think that would know better, but apparently they don't. I always said I'm going to write a book on the garden of grieving, because there's so many different ways people grieve, and you never know what to say. But and sometimes you don't need to say anything, but you should never assume. Those of you who know the Bible, it's like, oh, well, look at Job. And I was like, I don't care about Job. You know, it's about me right now. Right? So, but I do have other ideas. I'll give you an example. The other day I was coming home from work, and I saw these two little kids running out. And I knew they were safe. They looked happy. They were running from the house. They were running to who I'm assuming was their grandpa. It was so cute. And these kids weren't babies. They were kind of, I'd say about maybe 8 or 9. And they were leaping to his arms, and for some, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I could see that.
Oh, no.
But I could see that being a piece, you know, that's something that brings, brings some type of emotion. And in this case, joy, you know, for that one. And then, I think I was telling you this the other day about my brother telling me, you ought to do one, what do you say? He has this memory that I don't have. When he was in the 2nd grade and I was in the 4th grade, and he was fighting apparently. And I don't know if you know this story. He was fighting, and he said, all I know is the kid started yelling and holding his head. He said, I looked over. He said it was me standing there. All I could see was my white knee socks and my shoes and an umbrella that was broken because I had hit the kid over there. Over the head, and I was like, that's terrible. He said, then you told everybody, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. And he said, I grabbed him and said, we're going home now. I don't remember that, but I did. When he said it, I could see a little feisty, positions like that umbrella that obviously has a head dent in it, and a name in it, leave my brother alone. So it's things like that, and so maybe the next one will be about childhood. It doesn't have to be my childhood memories, but somebody else's, you know. So it's just about, you hear things, you pay attention to them.
So how long does it take you to do just one of these?
So I figured out.
It takes the question? How long does it take to do one of these?
So I figured out it takes about 8 hours. I figured 4 hours maybe in one setting, especially when I'm watching a football game or something that I don't have to really, really pay attention to. And then 4 more hours to finish that. And it's maybe longer than that, but at least 8 hours. Now, so you figure for each figure, because that was hard. For me anyway. Yeah.
It seems like 8 hours would be, I can't believe you could do it in 8 hours.
Well, not in one 8 hour setting. Or you mean, well, at least 8 hours. And then there's, I'm sure, with the cleaning up and.
Doesn't that seem like it would just take hours and hours and hours?
Well, but she said 8 hours per figure, so you're talking 40 hours for this guy here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So I know you do commission work, right?
Nope.
Now, we have a special arrangement.
What's up here?
Well, if you see something that's sold, which of course everything's sold, and if you happen to want something similar, what would be your way of maybe, I don't know, can you replicate it?
I have, like I said, with this one, because I learned from, you know, this was the very first time and how to do things again. Some things I could, I will never do this one again. That one right there, I don't think I ever will. But I could easily, it depends on what it is.
Variation
And-
on a theme?
Huh?
Variation on a theme?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be exactly the
No, it
same,
did, no, it
the
probably wouldn't be
same feeling.
exactly, but it'd be like, yeah, if you had, so I like something, like I know what you're talking about. And that would not be difficult, you know. So I could, but it's what it is, man.
Well, because, I mean, commission work, if you're talking 40 hours, and, you know, that's 25 an hour, but but these are just coming out of it. The reason why that first one, and I go, where did this come from? Is sometimes, and I've seen this with you, and there are a handful of other students who, it's just, if there's this, something comes over, and it comes right out of their hand and into the clay, and it's like when a songwriter writes a song, and it's just like this thing happens. So these, for you, this just happens, so you don't think about the time you put into them, you're just doing them. And now that now you have the opportunity to share them, so they're for sale. So it's not like hiring, you know, that's where the difficulty comes in, because now if you're making someone else's childhood memory or their thought, then you have this pressure because they're not going to like it, and the whole time you think they won't like it, you know, they will. You'll love anything she says.
But I know what she's talking about, it would not, that is a different thing. Yeah, you're right. And I used to sketch a lot, and I can't even sketch these out. I don't even, I can't do it the way I don't have an internet, so I don't have any sketching, but I just have to build it and see if I can.
You probably think in 3D. You're thinking in 3D
I think
now
I
instead
am.
of
Yeah.
sketching.
Yeah.
I think you're thinking of the whole back and front.
And that's a gift.
Yeah,
It's
that's
an amazing gift.
She's been telling me that forever, for the last few years.
When you're building, do you always have an idea in mind of what it's going to be, or do you sometimes build with an idea and then the clay kind of takes over and moves you in another direction?
So there's two things on that. The clay with the angels does move its own, because I can actually, I'm going to tell you this right, I can take some clay and I can actually close my eyes if I'm really, especially when I'm thinking about something else, and then whatever is there, however they're going to be, or whatever, however it's going to be. I've taken some clay and twisted it before, and I'm like, oh man, I see an arm, so I work on that. These, I already have an idea of what I want it to look like. The other thing, the piece with the dancer on the wall was actually, my sister, the dance I do is in church, she does different styles, and but I saw a picture of her, and it was the formation that was so pretty. That was something like that I might could do again, because it's not really, it's something I saw and I like the shape and all that. But what did I say about that? Oh, the background, I was trying to make it like the other one that was in like a frame, and I couldn't do it. And I'm like, what's wrong with this shape? And I kept looking at it, and I'm like, oh, I looked up the map of Africa, and that's what it was doing. So all I had to do was take a little thing and make it, look just like that. So sometimes the clay does speak. I was down this morning, but I think it's true.
Well, Michelangelo said that too.
Yeah. Yes,
I
ma'am.
don't know if you ever run out of inspiration or ideas, but if someone brings a request to you and it's something that you're kind of interested in, would that be helpful to give you a focus? Because I know when I didn't paint and when I was given a requirement, a certain topic at a certain time, it was fun because you're freed from the obligation to figure it out yourself.
And I think for me, it might be the opposite. I was telling her I hated art in the 8th grade because they would tell us what to do. I don't want to do this. I mean, I would do it, but it wasn't until the 9th grade I started painting it on my own. And my brother-in-law wants me to, he said, I want you to make me so-and-so. I'm not going to do it just like that. Now, he did say, if I gave you a family picture, maybe, not, and it's not going to look like that, but it could be a picture of a family doing something. Because that's what I know, but sometimes when you hear, what are you laughing at?
Look at your feet.
Really? I'm just going like that. Yeah,
Lee, do you dance?
Yes, she does.
Yes, you do.
Would you like to dance for me?
Yes.
Get me off the hot seat right
Well, I was just going to say, if we're starting a short list of commissions, I would like to be recognized.
I know people have asked for the angels, not in a certain way. So can you make me an angel? No, that's easy enough for me. Yes, ma'am.
I kind of like, I see some similarities between what you do and what Norman Rockwell did. He took everyday things and turned them into art so that we can all relate to it or enjoy it again and know that maybe that's something that happened in your past or somebody else's past. So all of your pieces are so relatable.
And that's, you know, and that's the thing that surprised me the most. I don't know why, I guess because I didn't think what I was doing made any difference to anybody but me. But at the reception, there were so many people that said the same thing, that it's like, and somebody actually went away crying. I'm like, I'm making my cry. It just reminds me of, yeah, so it's that, yeah. I don't have anything else to say.
Well, I was just noticing when you were talking about the 8th grade and having to do certain things in art and how that turned you off, and how your mother, Nancy, said, just paint the walls of the living room.
So let me tell you the story. I can't tell you.
I just love it.
Yeah, it was, and I thought it was a spring break, but she's got a memory. I don't. Graduation. It was graduation. Really? Okay. So she said, I have something for you to do, and I'm like, okay. You know, she said, I want you to paint a mural or something in this corner over here, and I'm like, I can't paint. You said, yes, you can. So I did it because she told me to, and it was river trees or something. And so a few years later, you asked Deborah to do it in the other corner. Okay, so then my sister Deborah, her twin, is she's actually a art professor at Queens College. And so so she painted. And what grade was she in?
I don't know. It was a couple of years afterwards.
Yeah, so I'm thinking they might be in high school. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, she was definitely still in high school.
Okay. And so then I come home from college a few years later, and I'm looking at him. There was a big difference between mine was more abstract and Deborah's was more defined. And I look over on this other wall, and I said, well, who did that? She said, I did that. Yeah. Yeah.
Are they all still there?
Yeah, they're still there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we come
stay
over?
there?
What do the many children do for you that causes you to be so, in so many places? What would you say they do for you in terms of your art?
The what?
What do the children do as you surround yourself with them in the
Oh,
kindergarten
preschool.
and all the places? What, Head
Oh,
Start?
because I said, okay, I'm a
Head
preschool
Start
teacher.
and, wow.
Yeah, kids are awesome. You can leave the parents at home and just work with the kids and be fine. But they come in with the parents, you know, the parents' issues on their shoulders. Sometimes it would frustrate me. So I'm working with middle schoolers right now, and I am not a fan. I'm not, and they know it because I told them. I said, well, I did. I said, you know, preschool is much more fun. Well, why do you like them better than us? Well, I don't tell them. I don't hate them. They just are a hard group. And I said, because you can dance, you can sing with them. They said, you can sing. I said, no, but they don't know I can't sing. They don't know I can't sing. I said, you guys want to criticize with this age group, you have to be careful with it, because with preschoolers, you know, there's always the hugging or the, you know, you cannot do anything with these other ones, because, yeah. So I have to be careful around. But everybody needs somebody. They need as much as.
Have your students seen your sculptures?
The middle schoolers, yeah, not in real life, but they've seen pictures. Yes, sir.
I think he had something to say.
Eric?
Perhaps not.
I could, I could talk. I'm bursting at the seams over here.
But I just just wanted to say basically that whenever I was back in high school and I was about to take on a drafting class, this was when I didn't like drafting. My teacher was called outside the room for a moment, and then he returned saying, this year we wasn't going to have any drafting. Back then, I didn't allow him to see the ever-increasing smile on my face. As I was saying inside, hooray.
Yeah.
But the weirdest thing about it is as soon as I left high school, I became so interested in drafting that I went to college for it and got an A in college. So, you know, you never know. If you dislike one thing at one particular time, who's to say that later you might like it more than any other?
True story. Were you gonna say something?
I think he was referring to when Bev brought up you being like Norman Rockwell, and I had a similar thought earlier when you were talking about the corner store, and that's a good scene. You know, they're just, and you said right before that you were thinking like, because how can you not with the news that you know, the neighborhood that you grew up in is painted one picture. And these sculptures that you're making are painting the picture that, you know, there's another side to it. You know, and it didn't make me think of Norman Rockwell so much as Ice Cube, who said he was interviewed about making the Friday movies, about how, you know, the idea behind that was there's all this terrible stuff, talk about his neighborhood, but he remembers as a kid popping in and out of houses and having fun and that side of it, so telling that side of the story. And, you know, speaking from where I come from, not that neighborhood.
Right.
That's a really powerful thing. That's a connector. That's maybe the most important role that your artwork might play is showing us that other side that, you know, connecting that.
Well, how would you like to go out and get one more piece that you'd like to share with us?
Does anybody have a piece they want me to share?
Okay.
Particular.
All of them. Somebody said bring them all in. Oh, good, good.
And bring one of the angels so we can see that.
Okay.
What about your little grandson? Has he ever been up here in a sculpture?
He kind of is.
Yeah, but I mean more so.
The grandson?
There is one.
Oh my God, this kid, she tells me
This is her
stories.
birthday. Yeah, he's funny. I have 7 grandkids.
Oh, wow.
And he's the youngest.
The chance is just
He's got
amazing.
Oh my God.
You don't look old enough to have 7 grandkids.
Right? I'm old enough. Eric has used his muscles.
Whatever pieces we got.
I told you about that first one I broke, right?
Yeah. The floor's clay, the wall's clay. I think everything but the plastic in the newspaper in here, right?
What's that?
The plastic bag in the newspaper in here.
And everybody else is playing, yeah.
And they're all glued in place. Yeah, she's got the back of the wall done. Very important. I didn't see it. You can actually read the newspaper.
It's in the back.
When you're talking about like the skaters, she's organizing and a lot of times men in particular don't know where to meet up just to talk. So even if they're not there to do something in particular, it's a way for them to keep in touch and to relate to each other.
And that's why I call it a fellowship. You know, we always think about fellowship in church. But
What was that? What was that?
I said, that's why I call it a fellowship. And we're in response to what she said. Because they would just talk. It was really a neat thing to see.
How barber shops were too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Elijah Pierce from the barber shop.
Yeah.
Oh, did you meet Elijah?
Yeah, one time we were walking past, I think it was when I first came here, and I happened to go past there. dancing. I don't remember what he said, but I remember him talking to us, just seeing him.
Can't hear you.
I said I met Elijah Pierce once.
And I shared, I had invited him to Conversations and Coffee, but he wasn't feeling well. Yeah.
When I was in college at Ohio State, we took a field trip to his barber shop.
What'd you say?
I said I took a field trip to his barber shop.
Oh.
And that was just, and he had little business cards that he gave, and I still have mine. So, good memory, we met the same person.
What did it say on the business card, what his profession was?
I think it might, I'll have to look at it. I think it might have said barber and artist, and it was a little bit bigger than the typical card. I'll have to look at it.
Not we're all psychologists or.
Can you imagine what Teresa was saying to me? What can I say? She said, I said, your work speak with you. It was wonderful. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you. Thank you, family, beautiful family. It's great to be with you, McCoy, Nancy, and Lee. Now tell us just a moment. We do have a about this. Tell us about the dancing.